Hi, this is Rose, and this is the Sovereign Soul podcast. I help people to reclaim their personal power so that they can live happy lives and hopefully be the leader of their life. And in that way, that each person who can take responsibility for themselves ripples out to the next, which then in turn has the ability to heal the world. In my last episode, I had a good old rant about inequality and how I believe that it is the biggest disease on earth. I do apologize for the roughness of any of these episodes. They are unfiltered, unedited, and unscripted, which might be blatantly obvious or might be incredibly enjoyable. I don't know, but I have to start somewhere to what do they say? Done is better than perfect. And so, yeah, there's nothing frilly around these things, but I think that the content itself, hopefully you will be able to feel it, what you can't understand. I didn't get that from me. I actually saw that from someone on LinkedIn, and I thought that was pretty cool. He gives these pretty deep posts, and then at the end of it, he goes, and if you don't understand it, maybe you will feel it. And that is what I actually really do hope sincerely for anybody who may come across this podcast. So, as I say in the last episode, I already ranted about inequality. And it really gets under my skin because it really is the biggest disease on earth. And it's so simple. And to me, is so stupid that our differences make us so scared of each other. And then, of course, seeing how the world perpetuates that, whether it's perpetuated on social media or any form of fucking media, within our societies, within religions, within anywhere, differences are scary. And why? Why does it feel so scary to be different to somebody else? I personally see and believe that those differences are a very scary thing and can make people become fearful to the point of violence because it makes them question their own identity. It's because people don't know who they truly are. And I would rather say people don't know what they truly are. Because what we truly are is an expression of source. So if we can picture for a second that source is all there ever was, it's just this thing, and it could have been black, it could have been quiet, it could have been still, it could have just been a feeling, it could have been a knowing, it could have been whatever, but it's one thing, and it is just pure energy, pure love. And from that pure energy and pure love, original thought began. And from original thought started making pieces of source come apart. But not come apart because it's separate, because there is always energy between the space of something too. But come apart so that that source could experience different things, could become different experiences. And ultimately, a human soul is that. Or let's just say a soul. A soul is an individualized expression of the whole. The spirit is the whole, the connection to the whole. So ultimately, we all come from the same thing. So we don't know what we are. Human beings have forgotten that. There's not very much out there that teaches us that, not on the mainstream. And remember, most people belong to the mainstream. If somebody has come across this podcast, chances are you're not from the mainstream. But if you've come across this from the mainstream, you're probably thinking, what the fuck is this weirdo talking about? Well, fact of the matter is, we do, in what I can see, come from the whole, the divinity. So at our deepest level, at our level of source within all of us, we are the same. We are not different. We are equal. We all come from the same source. But then when we start having individualized experiences, then depending on how many of those experiences you've had, or how how your energy may perhaps have been hijacked, which is what I'm going to propose in this. You become more and more separate from knowing what you are, and you become more and more identified with who you think you are. So what is the difference between knowing what you are and who you are? Who you are is, hey, I'm in a human body and I have, 10 fingers and toes, and this is my job, and this is where I live, and this is the country I live in, and these are the people who I interact with, and this is what I believe in my religion, and this is what education I got. All of those things are what we think that's like the who we are. But actually, it's just a story. And how much we identify with that story is, again, what causes our own ability to be able to shift and change and grow, or stops our ability to shift and change and grow. And the more we're incapable of growing, the more inequality will grow, because it really is our ability to mold and change and become something which feels more comfortable, which feels more easy, than being somebody who's totally wound up in their own head, in their own emotions, in their own world, and in what they assume is their identity, that will cause enormous separation from the divinity. Now, as I spoke about briefly in the last episode, that separation is happening on the spiritual realm, in the energetic spiritual realm around Earth. That separation is perpetuating for us to keep being separate from Source. People who are very attached to religion and identify with religion and know themselves as religious people, and whatever their religion might be, they believe that God is their creator and their ultimate source. And this is not true. This is definitely not how I see it. God is also a fraction of the source, and then that God is living out its hierarchy to literally have power over this entire earth and all the souls within it. And it has created all these matrices, these different energetic systems, which keep the souls on earth tied to it. So if you think that the 3 biggest religions on the earth need you to give your soul to them, or God needs it, you have to give your soul away in order to get to heaven. So nothing that anybody's really doing in that energetic tie is identified with their own personal power. The power is always going to be in God's hands, and the power is always going to be in their soul being saved. Like, they totally afraid that if their soul's not saved, then they're going to go to hell. Like, even the fact that hell has been created as a concept is just utterly brutal, actually. Because people on earth, so at our essence, like I say again, we come from the divine. So in our essence, we're all very pure. And I think human beings, as a creation of Source, are actually incredibly innocent. I don't believe that human beings are like born into sin and actually really bad. I fucking so far from believe that. I think human beings are not great self-thinkers. They are very communal, and they want to fit in, and they also innocent. They want to be led like children. Human beings are a bit like children. So perhaps if we had to say that there were more evolved beings somewhere in all of existence, human beings are pretty low. So like children on personal empowerment, of actually being able to be sovereign beings. So therefore, they're very easy to manipulate. And so therefore, they're very easy to control. And because of this, that's how we've landed up in the situation that we've landed up on Earth. I also spoke in the last episode where I speak about how the hierarchy in the spiritual realm only plays out mirrors in the physical realm on earth. So you got a few people who, possibly less than just a few people, who actually pull all the strings. And it's the same thing on the spiritual hierarchy. There's like one thing that's actually pulling all the strings. So it's in like a megalomaniac craze of power over all these souls underneath it. It feeds it. The more our belief systems feed it, the stronger it gets, the more empowered it gets, but not in a healthy way, because it's stealing that power from everything underneath it. So again, the point of all of this was to speak about identity with our belief systems, because ultimately it's only what you believe about something that creates your reality. And if somebody is very, very, very identified with the belief system, they're not going to want to change it. And sometimes they're very identified out of fear of believing something else. And mostly it's a fear of being wrong, which is so crazy. But that's really what it is. It's like all of a sudden saying, like, say you're brought up in this crazy abusive household, and that's all you know. Like, someone used to hit you at the back of your head for everything that you did. You never felt safe. You felt like you weren't enough, but you identified with that in a way that is how children get raised. And so you yourself grow up, you have children, and then you treat your children in the same way that you were treated, because you think, well, if my parents did it, then it must be right. And you say that because that was your whole childhood. And so if you don't identify with it as right, that makes your whole childhood wrong. It will make you have to question the parents and the way they did something. And most importantly, it would mean you'd have to take responsibility for yourself to change something. People don't like that. Like I say, people are actually quite innocent. They just want to be led and told what to do, like children. So what happens is that abusive way of raising children perpetuates, because my parents did it. That was my childhood. So I'm doing it with my children because that's all I know. That's the excuse somebody uses. And so that goes until somebody decides, hang on, this didn't work for me. I'm going to do this a little bit differently. And I'm going to be brave. And I'm going to say that it's okay if my whole childhood was actually not something that worked for me. It's okay if my parents weren't perfect. It's okay if my parents didn't even know how to love. That's all okay. But I am going to do things in a way that's going to make my child feel much better than I did when I was growing up. And instead of doing it from a perspective of where you think everything that you experienced growing up was wrong, you do it from a perspective of going, okay, I'm not going to blame anyone, but I'm certainly going to use my own autonomy, and I'm going to do things in a far better way, or I'm going to improve on that rather than keep repeating the same thing that didn't work. That's how we get change. But how we don't get change is when we're too afraid to admit that the darkness exists and too afraid to take responsibility to be the change. Because what happens then all of a sudden if the family rejects you, or society rejects you, or your religion rejects you, or everything you know that you have been identifying with that makes you fit into the world is all of a sudden going to reject you, and you're not going to fit in anymore. And then you're going to have to go, well, where do I fit in? Again, it takes bravery to admit when something is not working. And that is how we disidentify with something, through enormous amounts of bravery and courage, as well as honesty, to be able to see this isn't working and it's not going to make me wrong, because I don't have to live for the approval of everything around me. I'm choosing to do something because I know it's the right thing to do. It's a total different connection to doing something because you want your parents' approval, because you want your siblings' approval, because you want society's approval, and because you want God's approval. Doing something because you know it's right for you. That is the most powerful change that anybody can make. And that, like I say, takes huge amounts of bravery, because it means that all the things that you thought you identified with that were right need to be questioned and let go of.